I was 22 when my parents died. Technically, I was an adult, but in reality, I'm not so sure about how mature I was. Let's just say it was still pretty comfortable coming home on weekends where my mom did my laundry and my dad helped me study. What was I going to do without them? In the beginning, I felt condemned, maybe even cursed. I thought somehow I was predestined for misery. There were many reasons for me to blame life. I had been bullied in school for almost 10 years, long before my parents died. My brother had a brain tumor when he was 11 and became handicapped when I was 6. That put a heavy strain on our family. I was battling depression already, and then this happened. Apart from the sadness, though, strangely enough, I also felt this huge power. This feeling of responsibility towards my parents. I couldn't give up. I'd never seen them give up when things got difficult either. So I did what I had to do. I finished my thesis a few days after the crash, so I could graduate. Together with the people close to us, my brothers and I organized the funeral. After that, I dealt with banks, lawyers, media, brokers, and sold my parents' house. I did all of these things I never imagined I could do. I was a lot stronger than I thought. I turned out to be resilient. And that brings me to the picture of the plant. About a month ago, I found this tiny plant in my kitchen. Now, before you start thinking my house is a mess, I'd like to set that straight. I keep my kitchen pretty clean. Still, this plant grew out of nowhere, in a place where all odds seemed against it. It had a strong will to live. It reminded me of the time after the crash. At first, I felt just as lost, but somehow I found my own will to live. That had a lot to do with finding out who I was without my parents. And that shifted my sense of responsibility. It was up to me now. I wasn't condemned anymore. I chose to live my own life. And that brings me to the second object, the flight safety card. As you can probably see, it's damaged from the crash. I took it from the Libyan desert. People ask me a lot if I still fly. I do. But whenever I board a plane, these instructions remind me not to hold on to plans and expectations too much. Because you can rehearse the safety instructions over and over. Things can still turn out very differently. Before the accident, I thought I had it all figured out. I had carefully planned out all the steps I needed to take to become what I wanted to be: a reporter or a news anchor. I always aimed for high grades in school and the most renowned institutions for internships and job applications. But after my master's, I couldn't get a job. Nobody hired me. So I kept trying and trying. I worked for free to build my resume. And I did one too many internships. Still, no job. The plan didn't work. Another expectation I had has to do with my family. After my parents died, I expected everyone around my brothers and me to move closer together. Unfortunately, the opposite happened. The family fell apart in a big conflict that could not be resolved. And that made things even sadder than they already were. It was complicated. I discovered that in radical situations, everything is put on edge. For me, it revealed all old patterns and structures that weren't right to begin with. But not being able to hold on to plans and expectations can somehow turn out to be a good thing. These were hard and lonely times, but in a strange way, they set me free. Free from a career path that led me nowhere. Free from social circumstances that may never have been right. I try to think of it as a very violent but useful reset. And that brings me to my final object, my book. The crash gave me ruthlessness as well as a sense of urgency. Now, those may sound contradictory, but they go pretty well together if you think about it. I thought if everything I used to know is broken, it doesn't matter anymore. I might as well do what I want. It changed my focus. Why waste time on things that don't feel right, things that don't make you happy? I learned that you don't have to follow through with something if it's not what you want or what you expected. It feels so much better to let it go and focus on what you would rather do. After the crash, people kept saying to me, there are no words to describe what you are going through right now. But at a certain point I thought, what if those words are there? What if I start trying to write those words down? I did just that. And in writing, I found something that had always been there. I just never noticed it. Somehow it all worked out. My memoirs were turned into a book, this book. It's called Everything Around Them Is Still There. Today, I'm a writer and a freelance journalist. I've signed a deal for my second book, a fiction novel that I'm working on right now. And every day, I get to do what I love. Now, what I've experienced may sound exceptional, but in the end, we are all going to experience loss. Everybody is going to lose their parents someday. For me, it just happened way too soon, and in a very violent way. Because of that, there are a few things I had to learn the hard way. I was fast-forwarded into adulthood and into letting go of old certainties. Looking back on the past years, I think that what I've learned comes down to three things. The first, you are so much stronger than you think. Even if it feels hopeless at first, somehow you find a way to live. Just like that little plant in the sink. For me, life took over. And I strongly believe that life will always take over. The second, don't cling to the safety instructions. Don't rely on plans and expectations too much. That may sound scary, but the outcome might surprise you. It could set you free. And finally, bad things in life don't define you. You define yourself. Maybe you can try to turn the things that seem to set you back into things that help you move forward. And for me, that's what my book represents. So yes, my beloved parents, who I still miss every day, may have died in an airplane crash. But I didn't. I'm still here.